What's the difference between what do you do, how do you do, how are you? And what if I asked you, how come? What gives? How so? Would you know how to answer these questions?
I don't know.
Today you'll learn how to ask and answer very common but very confusing English questions. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Our first question is one of the most common. What do you do? What do you do? But many students, even my most advanced students, look at me with a blank expression when I ask them this.
So what do you do?
So this is to ask about someone's job or occupation. Now the full form is what do you do for a living, but native speakers generally don't include for a living. It's very uncommon to include that. So you need to get comfortable with understanding what do you do? And notice the pronunciation, what do ya? That's what it will sound like, what do ya? What do you do? What do you do? And this is in the present simple. We have what, and then do, does, depending on the subject, then you have your subject, and then do. So for example, what does your sister do? So, what does your sister do? If I'm trying to get to know your sister. And you can answer, she's a professional juggler. Why not? Or, what does John do again? And notice you add again if you already told me what John does, or I already knew what John does, but I forgot. And then you could reply, I think he works in sales, if you want to express uncertainty. Now, don't worry about taking notes as we go through this lesson. I've summarized everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. So in a social setting, it's very common to say, nice to meet you, Jennifer. So, what do you do? What do you do? It's one of the first questions you're asked in a social situation. Now to answer, I teach English as a second language. So you state your job title or what you do, and then to turn it back to the person, you can simply say, and you, and you. Do not say, what is your job? That's a direct translation that natives don't use. And also, do not ask, how do you do? Which is our next question. How do you do? This is not the same as what do you do? This is a formal greeting when meeting someone for the first time. But keep in mind, this is outdated and it's not used today.
How do you do, Monsieur?
I'm only explaining this so you don't get confused with what do you do. But today, as a greeting, you would say, it's a pleasure to meet you. That sounds formal and professional. In a more casual, everyday situation, you would say, nice to meet you. Now, you can do this in the moment when you're meeting someone, but you can also use this as a farewell as you're leaving a conversation. And then because it's a farewell, you would say, it was a pleasure to meet you, because you met them 10 minutes ago when you started the conversation. Or you can say, it was nice meeting you. So it was nice, but notice I changed to the gerund. It was nice meeting you. You can use the infinitive, to meet, or the gerund, meeting, in the past form only. But just know the infinitive is more common. Let's move on to how are you? Of course, you know how to use this question, but just know that this is a common question about well-being and is often used in polite situations and is often used when you don't actually provide a real answer about your well-being and the other person does not care, is just a formality. So at a grocery store, when you go to check out, the clerk would say, hi, how are you? It's just a formality in North America. Now, as a formality, because this is a stranger you will never see again, you don't actually tell them how you are sincerely. You just say, fine, thanks, and you. It's polite to ask them as well. Or you can say, good, you. So we keep our answer very short.
Hi, how are you?
Now, it certainly is possible that a friend would say, "Hi Jen, how are you?" But because this is my friend, I will provide a real answer. I will not just say fine or good. So I might say, "Oh, it's been a crazy week." So I'll provide a full answer. So with friends, yes, you can absolutely ask, "How are you?" But it isn't the most common because it sounds impersonal. It's way more common to ask, "How are you doing?" And then to answer, "I'm doing great," or simply "doing great." "How's it going?" This is what I use 99% of the time. Now to answer, "It's going great." Because the question is, how is it going? How's it going? It's going great, or simply great. And in a more informal situation, and to be honest, I hear it more with younger males, "What's up? What's up?" And then to answer, "Not too much." Question 4, how many? What do you need to complete this? Well, you need how many? A plural countable noun. Is that what you said? So for example, how many projects are you working on? Okay, because it's plural. You must use a plural. And it has to be accountable, which means it can be singular, one project, or it can be plural, 2 or more projects. That's the standard form of nouns. However, there are exceptions which we will learn next. To answer, you would say, "I'm working on 4 right now, 4 projects." You don't have to include the projects because it's obvious.
How many projects are you doing at the same time?
And this is of course used to ask about a countable quantity or amount. So for example, how many apples do you need for the pie? Now you can provide a range, get me 5 or 7, depending on size. So you don't have to provide a precise number. But do not say, "How many rain was there last night?" "How many works do you have?" Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. This leads us to our next question, which is how much? How much? What do you need? An uncountable noun. So these are the irregular nouns, the exceptions to the regular form. So how much work do you have this week? Now notice there is no S on work because it's uncountable, and we use much. Now you can simply reply and say a lot. I have a lot of work. Remember, no S. And then if you want, you can continue on with something countable. I have 3 deadlines, 1 deadline, 2 deadlines. So the noun deadline is countable. I have 3 deadlines this week.
How much work do you think you got done?
And of course, this is to ask about an uncountable quantity or amount. So with our rain example, because rain is uncountable, you must ask how much rain was there last night. So again, you do not add an S. And then you might say, I think about 3 inches, because inch is a countable noun. 3 inches of rain, but rain does not take an S. In a job interview context, you may be asked, how much experience do you have? This is uncountable, the word experience. To answer, you can say, I have over 10 years of experience. So experience, no S, but years is countable. Now let's review question 6. What plus noun. This is to identify, describe, or provide information on something. What projects are you working on? So again, projects, that's a countable noun, singular, plural. And then to reply, I'm working on the website redesign project. Now just know that the verb tense that you need depends on the time reference. So you would ask, what movie did you watch last night? So of course, did is in the past because of last night. And then to answer, I watched the new Jack Black movie.
What movie did you watch?
Now with this structure, you can use a singular or plural noun. So for a plural noun, what courses have you taken? So far, I've only taken an AI course. So you can answer in the singular or plural. I've taken 3 AI courses. Let's compare this to question 7, which plus noun. Do you know the difference between what plus noun and which plus noun? Well, which is used to identify or choose something specific from a known or limited set of options. So you can absolutely ask, what projects are you working on? In this case, it's general. There are no limits. But if I ask, which projects are you working on? It's limited to a specific set of projects. Now, that set of projects, it's already known or it's been previously defined. The answer to both can be exactly the same. I'm working on the website redesign project. That's part of the specific set of projects or just a general set of projects. You might ask, which lesson did you complete yesterday? So did, because it's yesterday. And there's a specific set of lessons in the course curriculum. And you choose one of those specific lessons. I completed the phrasal verbs lesson. Or which movie do you want to watch? And then you can provide choices, the action movie or the rom-com. So what about you? Which movie do you want to watch? The action movie or the rom-com? Definitely put your choice in the comments. And remember, I only gave you 2. You must choose between those 2.
So, which movie do you want to watch tonight?
Or how about this? Which shirt should I wear tonight? The black one or the bright pink one? So again, I'm giving you a limited set of options. So you choose for me. Jennifer, you should wear and then you can say black or bright pink. Now you can answer with the black one or the pink shirt, for example. So share your choice in the comments. Question 8, what will you do? I hear a lot of confusion with using the future simple, especially in question form. What will you do? This is to ask about a real future decision or plan. For example, what will you do if the client cancels the contract? Now, based on this sentence structure, there is a real chance the client will do this. So to answer, use the future simple. I'll offer them a discount to hopefully win them back if they cancel. So the structure is what plus will plus subject plus base verb. So I might ask you, what will you do when your contract ends? And this is a real situation. And you can reply back in the future simple and say, I'll talk to the CEO about extending it. Or I might ask you, what will you do if the system crashes again? There's a real chance this could happen. Answer in the future simple, I'll call IT. Sometimes students use the future simple to ask about the weekend. What will you do this weekend? But native speakers don't use that. We use the present continuous. What are you doing this weekend? This is to ask about future plans and arrangements.
What are you doing this weekend?
Now let's compare what will you do to what would you do. And this is to ask about a hypothetical or imaginary situation. And students practice this a lot for their IELTS or in the classroom. Just remember that when you ask what will you do, there's a real chance this could happen. But when you ask what would you do if the client canceled the contract? So notice the sentence structure is different because we have what, would, subject, base verb. Now the next clause is if, subject, past simple, okay? Previously it was present simple. Now to answer this, you would say I would, which a native speaker would form the contraction, I'd offer them a discount to hopefully win them back. So notice the answer is different. We have subject, would, base verb. So these are your classic hypothetical scenarios. What would you do if you were the CEO? If I were the CEO, I'd give everyone a free car. Or what would you do if you had more time? A very common IELTS question and a very common icebreaker question. So why don't you practice answering? If I had more time, I'd... Share your answer in the comments.
What would you do if you had $1 million?
And let's move on to question 10, whose. But notice, we'll practice who is. This is to ask which person is doing something. For example, who's leading the meeting today? So notice whose as the contraction, who is. Pronunciation, whose, whose. Keep in mind, this is not slang. This is a grammatically correct and natural contraction. Whose. Who's leading the meeting today? Merrick is. That's all you need to say. Merrick is. You can provide the full form, Merrick is leading it, it being the meeting. Use the contraction, Merrick's leading it. Or the absolute full form, Merrick is leading the meeting today. Now notice, this is the present continuous. That's why we have whose, and then you see your verb in ing. Now as the present continuous, you need to change your verb to be based on the subject. Who's presenting first? I am, I am. This is also used with to be expressions. For example, who's responsible for this project?
Who's responsible for this?
David is responsible for this project. So the structure is to be responsible for something. It's not the present continuous, it's a to be expression. So to get energy up in a classroom, I could say, who's excited about my next lesson? Who's excited? And then hopefully I see a lot of people say, I am, woohoo, me, me, me. So to be excited about something. This is also a to be expression. And hopefully you're excited about my next lesson. Number 11, let's compare this to whose, but here the contraction is who has. And this is to ask which person has already completed something. For example, who's finished the report? So here, whose is who has. And again, it's not slang, it's a grammatically correct and natural contraction. But this is a present perfect question. So I could ask you, who's been to Ottawa? That's where I live. Who's been to Ottawa? So I'm asking a room of people. And then people will say, I have, or I've, the contraction, I've been to Ottawa twice. I think Sarah has. I think Sarah has been to Ottawa. Or in the negative, nobody has been to Ottawa yet before. I haven't been to Ottawa yet before. So just remember your answer is in the present perfect, but it may be present perfect negative.
Who's been to Santiago, Chile twice in 1 year?
But you cannot say who's a cat. You have to say who has a cat, because has is the main verb. Who has a cat? And then to reply, I have a cat, or Sarah has 5. So only a contraction with the present perfect or the present perfect continuous if you need the continuous form. And finally, let's compare this to whose. This is to ask about ownership or possession. So I could ask you, whose laptop is this? Now do not write whose apostrophe s, laptop is this, because that would either mean who is laptop is this, which is not grammatical, or who has laptop is this, not grammatical. But in spoken English, this isn't an issue because the pronunciation of whose is exactly the same as the contraction whose. Just remember grammatically, whose is a possessive determiner, and we use whose plus noun. Whose wallet is this? Not mine. That looks like Sarah's. And notice it has the apostrophe s because that looks like Sarah's wallet. The wallet belongs to Sarah, so I need that apostrophe s even if I don't include the noun. Or you could use a different structure. It belongs to Sarah. It being the wallet belongs to Sarah. In a meeting, someone might ask, whose idea was this?
Whose idea was this?
And then someone replies, Maria's. But just notice, they would absolutely include that s in pronunciation, Maria's. Or they might do the longer form, it was Maria's, still with that s. And the full form, it was Maria's idea, because the idea belongs to Maria. Amazing job learning those confusing questions, but we're not done yet. Now let's review common but confusing two-word questions like how come, what gives, how so, and 49 more. Let's start with how come. One of the most common short questions. This is used to ask why something happened. So you can simply think of how come as why. You can use this short question, for example, when someone cancels plans. Maybe they say, sorry, I can't make it to the movies on Friday. And then you reply, and instead of saying why, you can say, oh no, how come?
How come?
How come? This is like saying, why can't you come to the movies? Or let's say a coworker quits suddenly. So you say to them, you're leaving the company? How come? How come? This is again like asking, why did you quit? Now let's review what gives. What gives? Would you know how to answer this? Well, you'll use this to ask what happened or what's wrong. So for example, let's say something doesn't go as planned and you say to your coworker, the meeting got canceled again? What gives? What gives? What was the problem? So this is like asking, why was the meeting canceled again? What gives? So the coworker would just provide the reason. No one was available.
What gives?
Or let's say your friend or your spouse is acting differently and you say to them, you've been quiet all day. What gives? What gives? Why have you been quiet all day? And then they just provide the reason why. I'm just tired. Or I can say to you, you haven't liked this video yet? What gives? What gives? Why haven't you liked this video? So make sure you like it and leave a nice comment as well so I know you're enjoying it. A very common question is, how so? How so? This is used to ask someone to explain how or why something is true. So let's say someone gives an opinion that you don't understand. So opinion could simply be, the movie was terrible. But you're wondering, well, how was this movie terrible? Instead of saying that, you can simply say, how so? How so? When you ask this question, you're basically saying, explain in more detail why or how that movie was terrible. So the person would explain it. Oh, the plot made no sense. You can also use this when someone makes a statement that sounds surprising or perhaps doubtful. She said the new manager's nicer. Now, you've met the new manager and she doesn't seem very nice. So you might say, how so? How so? How is the new manager nicer? Basically, you're inviting them to give you an example because you want more information. So maybe the person will say, she doesn't mind if we leave early as long as our work is done. You can also use this when you want more details about results or decisions at work, and this is very commonly used this way. So if someone says the new plan's working a lot better, you can say, how so? How so? How is the new plan working better? Again, give me the data or give me an example. So they would provide information. Sales are up by 20%.
How so?
Let's review what for. What for? What for? This is very commonly used to ask the reason or purpose behind something. So it's an alternative to why. So when someone says they're buying something unexpected, you can say, you're getting a new laptop? What for? Why are you getting a new laptop? Maybe their current laptop is quite new. So what for? What for?
What for?
Or when someone asks you for something like, can you send me the new client files? You might reply back and say, what for? What for? Why do you want me to send you the new client files? Or why do you want to see the new client files? What for? Let's review says who. Oh, I love this one. Says who. This is to challenge or question the authority behind a statement. So when someone makes a confident claim, like someone might say to you, you can't park here, you might reply back and say, says who? Says who?
Says who?
Who says I can't park here? Now maybe in this case, because it's parking, maybe there isn't a specific person like John, but maybe there's a rule. So it could also be when you say says who, you could be asking what is the rule that prevents me from parking here? So the person could reply and say, this is a private lot and you need a pass to park here. Or you can use says who when disagreeing with a bold opinion. So if someone says that movie is terrible, you can reply back and say, says who? Says who? Now, if this is a personal opinion, the person could simply say, I do. I say it's terrible because I saw it. Or you can say it received terrible reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, the movie review website. Maybe you're familiar with this short question, what's next? What's next? Now technically this is a two-word question because we have what is next, but what is a contraction, so it's considered one word. And this is to ask what to do after finishing something. So it's like the short way of asking what is the next task or item, or what should I do now? What's next? So you can use this after completing a task. So you can say, okay, I organized the expenses. What's next? What should I do next?
What's next?
Or during a meeting agenda, you can say, we covered the budget. What's next? What is the next item to discuss? What's next? And the person can say, oh, team updates. That's what's next. Or you can ask, now what? Now what? This is to ask what to do after something unexpected happens. So it's like saying, now what happens? Or now what should we do? So if a plan falls apart, which means it doesn't go the way you wanted it to, maybe you say, the event's canceled. Now what? Now what should we do? And this is somewhat unexpected. Now maybe the person just says, let's just wait and see. Wait and see what to do next.
Now what?
Or if you're finishing a project earlier than expected, which is always a great thing, maybe you say, we finished 2 weeks early. Now what? Now what should we do? Now what happens? Now what? You may be familiar with you good? You good? This is used to check if someone's okay or if someone needs help. This is the short way of saying, are you good? Or are you okay? So notice here, you just drop the verb to be, are, and you simply say, you good? You okay? It's also the same as asking, is everything good? Is everything okay? So let's say a friend trips or drops something. You can say, whoa, you good? You good? Are you good? Are you okay?
You good? Everything good?
And then you can say, yeah, I'm fine. Or if someone looks upset or quiet, you can say casually, hey, you good? You good? And then they can reply back and say, all good, thanks. So instead of you good, you can actually use all good. So to that same situation, you can ask your friend or coworker, hey, all good? All good? And they can reply back and say, yep, all good. Or when checking in after a tough moment. So maybe your boss got upset with you in a meeting. And after the meeting, the friend could say, or coworker would say, you good? You good? Or all good? And they say, yeah, I just need a break. What if I ask you, we good? We good? This is to check if everything is okay between people. And because it uses we, it means me and other people, you or more than one person. So it's a short way of saying, are we good? Are we okay? So after a small argument, maybe you say to your friend, coworker, spouse, brother, hey, we good? We good? And then they can say, yeah, all good, or yeah, we're good, we're good. Or after giving negative feedback to a colleague, maybe you say, I know that came off strong, but we good? We good? Are we good? And they can say, no worries, we're good. We're good. So again, to respond, you would use the full form, we are good. We're good.
We good? We good.
How about this one? You serious? You serious? This is to show surprise or disbelief. So it's a short way of asking, are you serious? So again, just drop the verb to be, you serious? So if a friend says something shocking like, I'm moving to another country next month, you can say, you serious? You serious? Are you serious? And they can reply back and say, dead serious. Or when someone makes an unbelievable claim, like I just met Taylor Swift in the elevator, and you can say, you serious? And they can reply back and say, totally serious.
Serious?
I'm serious.
Now instead of you serious, you can also use for real. For real. You can use those for the examples I already shared, or this one if you're reacting to unexpected news at work. For example, they canceled the whole project. You serious? For real? And the person could confirm it and say, afraid so, which means yes, it's true. You can ask someone, you sure? You sure? This is to ask for confirmation. And again, it's the short form of are you sure, just dropping that verb to be. So when someone insists on paying for lunch and you want to confirm that they truly are comfortable paying for your lunch, you can say, you sure? You sure? And then they can say, yeah, don't worry, I got it, which means I will pay for lunch.
You sure? I'm sure.
Or when a coworker says they'll handle a difficult task, you can say, you sure? It's like asking, you sure you don't need help? Which you could expand on and add to this. You sure you don't need help? Or you can simply say, you sure? And your coworker can reply back with one word, positive. I'm positive I don't need help. Or you can use this when confirming travel details or any important dates. Maybe your friend says, the flight's at 7, and you reply back and say, you sure? Are you sure the flight's at 7? And they can say 100%, which means they're 100% sure, positive the flight's at 7. You can ask your friend, you in? You in? This is to invite someone to join a plan or activity. It's the short form of are you in? Are you in? And an alternative way would be, do you want to come or do you want to join us? So the in represents that they are agreeing to the plan. So if you're planning something with friends and your friend says to you, we're seeing a movie on Friday, you in? You in? It's the friend's way of inviting you to the movie. You in? And then you can accept it and say, definitely I'm in, which means yes, I want to see a movie. Or when planning something with coworkers, someone can say, we're going for lunch today, you in? Do you want to join us? But maybe you say, oh, I can't today, next time though.
You in?
You can also say, you coming? You coming? This is to check if someone is joining or going somewhere too. So it's not necessarily an invitation, but it could be used as an invitation, or the person is already invited and you just want to know if they are joining at this time.
You coming?
And this is the short form of are you coming? So again, you coming? So when leaving to do something, you can say to your coworker, we're getting coffee, you coming? Now maybe they already knew you were getting coffee at this time, so they can just reply back and say definitely. Or when leaving work for a team event, you coming to happy hour? But then they say, I can't. Let's review who cares. You probably know this one. Who cares? This is to say something isn't important or worth worrying about. So when brushing off a rude comment, if you brush it off, it means you ignore it. So your coworker says, they didn't like my idea, and you want to make that person feel better, so you say, who cares? It was a good one. So you're saying, ignore that. I liked your idea.
Who cares? Who cares?
Or if you're downplaying bad news, so you're making it seem less severe than it is, you're downplaying it. You tell your friend, I didn't get an interview for the promotion. Now your friend wants to make you feel better, so they can say, who cares? You don't even like your company. So they're trying to make you feel better. Now, instead of who cares, you can also use so what? So what? This is to dismiss something as unimportant. So when someone points out a minor issue like you made a typo, you can say, so what? It happens. It's not a big deal.
So what?
Or when refusing to overreact if your friend gets mad at you and says, you were 5 minutes late. You can say, so what? We still started on time. It's only 5 minutes, so what? Now, who cares focuses more on the opinions and judgments of others. So what focuses more on the fact, event, or situation. Let's review got it? Got it? This is an important one, is to check if someone understands. It's like asking, do you understand? So when explaining directions, you can say, turn left at the gas station, then turn right. Got it? Got it? But in statement form to reply, they can say, got it, but not as a question, as a statement.
Got it?
Got it.
Or during a team meeting, maybe you give an instruction. We'll send the report on Tuesday. Got it? Got it? Do you understand? So because it's asking if the person understands, they can reply back and say understood, which is like saying I understand, but it's in the past form, understood. You can ask someone, you ready? This is to ask if someone is prepared or ready to begin or start something. It's like asking, are you ready to start? Or it could be, are you ready to leave? So before starting a presentation, you can ask, you ready? You ready? And they can say, yep, I'm ready.
You ready?
Ready.
Or before leaving the house, it's very common. You ready? You ready to leave? And you can say, give me a sec, which means you're not ready yet. Instead of you ready, you can ask all set? All set? This is extremely common. It's to ask if someone is ready or prepared. So again, before leaving the house, you can ask all set. It's the exact same as you ready to go, you ready to leave. And they can say almost, I'm almost ready.
All set?
Or before starting a meeting, all set. This is like asking, is everyone ready to start? So everyone can say, yep, all set, we're ready. You can ask, you done? You done? This is to ask if someone has finished something. So it's like asking, are you done? Are you finished? Or have you completed? Have you finished something? So when someone's been working on something for a while, you can ask, you done? You done the report? And they can reply back, almost. Or when waiting for a turn at the printer and you've been waiting and you want to ask, you done? You done with the printer? And they say, no, I have another document to scan.
You done?
Yeah.
Here's a great short question. Any luck? Any luck? This is to ask if someone succeeded at something. So it's like asking, did you successfully resolve the issue? Were you successful? Any luck? So when someone's been trying to fix a problem, any luck with your computer? Or just any luck? Not yet. Or after sending job applications, any luck? Yeah, I've already heard back from 2 companies, so you've had success.
Any luck?
You probably know this one. What's wrong? What's wrong? So this is to ask when someone looks upset or something seems off. So off means not normal or not right. So it's the short form, of course, of what is wrong. It simply uses the contraction, what's wrong. So when a friend looks down, looks upset, hey, what's wrong? Nothing, I'm just tired. Or when a child seems frustrated with homework, honey, what's wrong? I can't figure this problem out.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
Now I explained that simple one because you may want to ask the person instead, you mad? So this is to ask if someone is upset. And again, we're just dropping that verb to be, are you mad? You can use any emotion. Are you mad? Are you upset? Are you angry? But you can just drop are. You mad? You frustrated? You angry? You hungry? Whatever it might be. But with you mad, of course, you would use this after a disagreement. You mad? A little, yeah, I'm a little mad. Or when teasing someone lightly, you mad I beat you at darts again? This is something I said to my husband the other day, and he said, of course not.
You mad?
Or you can ask, what's that? What's that? This is to ask what something is when you didn't hear or see it clearly. And this is just the contracted form of what is that. So when you hear a strange noise, you can ask, what's that? And then the person might say, it's just my phone.
What's up? What's up?
Or when someone mumbles something, which means they didn't say it clearly. Instead of saying, what did you say? You could also say, what's that? What's that? And they say, oh, I said I'll be late. You can ask someone, where to? Where to? This is to ask where someone wants to go. So it's like asking, where are you going? Where do you want to go? So when giving a friend a ride, you could ask your friend, where to? Where do you want to go? Where to? And they can say, oh, can you drop me at the coffee shop?
Where to?
Or when meeting up with someone spontaneously, which means you don't have concrete plans, you might say, well, where to? Where should we go? Where to? And they say, oh, let's check out that new pizza place. And the most common for last is, of course, what's up? So a casual greeting. When you see a friend or coworker, you can say, hey, what's up? And they can say, not too much. That's the standard reply, not too much. And in this context, asking what's up is like asking, how are you? Hey, what's up? Not too much.
Hey, what's up?
This is commonly used when someone messages you. So I might receive a text that just says, what's up? But I would probably reply back and say, just got back from work. So in this context, it could mean, what are you doing? Or if someone looks distracted, you might say, you look deep in thought. What's up? And they can say, oh, just thinking about this deadline. So in this case, when you ask what's up, it could mean, is everything okay? Or what's happening in your life right now? So what's up is absolutely used as a casual greeting to how are you, but it's used in other ways as well. Why is that? Why is that? If a native speaker says that to you, they are using this to ask for the reason behind something. Why is that? And then as the contraction, why is that? So when someone makes a surprising statement like, I'm leaving early today, this isn't something they normally do. You can ask them the reason and say, why is that? Why are you leaving early today is the full question, and then a native would just condense this to simply, why is that? Why is that?
Why is that?
Or if your coworker says to you, we need to stay late on Friday, you can ask for the reason and say, why is that? Why do we need to stay late on Friday? Or when I say you should put let's go in the comments, maybe you reply back and ask, why is that? Why is that, Jennifer? Well, the reason why is because YouTube promotes videos with high engagement, which will help support the channel. So leaving a comment or liking this video is an easy thing you can do. So please show your support. And that is why you should do it. How about where's that? Where's that? This is to ask about the specific location of something. So where is that? And that represents whatever place has been mentioned. Where is that? So when someone mentions a place that you don't know, but perhaps they assume you know. For example, they say every Friday there's a farmer's market in Boston Park. But you don't know where Boston Park is. You can say, where's that? And that represents Boston Park. So it's like asking, where is Boston Park?
Okay, that sounds great. Where's that?
Or if your coworker says, we tried the new Mexican restaurant in Avena Mall and it was amazing. Again, they assume you know where Avena Mall is, but if you don't, you can say, where's that? Where's that? And if a native speaker says, say what? Say what? And they'll probably trail off at the end, so it sounds like what? Say what? Say what? This is to show surprise or that you didn't hear or understand something. So when someone gives you shocking news, like I just quit my job, you can reply back with a confused expression or a shocked expression and say what? It's like saying, are you serious? Or it could also be asking for the reason. Why? Or maybe one of your fellow students says, did you hear that Jennifer's quitting YouTube? Shocking news. You can reply back and say what? With some shock or maybe even some anger. And again, this is like asking, are you serious? Or maybe even expressing, I can't believe it. Now, this is also used when you mishear someone. So if your sister or roommate says, as you're leaving the house perhaps, can you pick up milk on your way home, but you were already walking away and you didn't quite hear, you can say what? Say what? What did you say? Now, using say what as an alternative to what did you say, it does sound casual and informal, so I suggest using it in those situations. How about make sense? Make sense. This is one that I commonly used with my students. And then finally, one student said to me, Jennifer, I have no idea what you're saying. Like they did not understand the individual words. Make sense? Make sense?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is to check if someone understands your explanation. The full form is does that being my explanation, does that make sense? And optionally, you can add to you. Does that make sense to you? And native speakers just shorten it to make sense, make sense. So after giving instructions, perhaps I say to functions as a preposition, and that's why you need the gerund following it. Make sense is my way of making sure that student understands. It's like saying, do you understand my explanation? And then to reply, you can say yep, which is a casual yes. Yep makes sense. So notice in the reply, you need to add that S because the full form is yep, that, your explanation, which is third person singular, that makes sense. Or you can even add an adjective and say that makes perfect sense. So now I can ask you, make sense? And you understand. How about good to go? Good to go? Good to go? This is to check if someone is ready or finished with preparations. So before leaving a location, whether that's home or the mall or a restaurant, you can simply ask, good to go? Good to go? This is like asking, are you ready to leave? To leave the house, restaurant, mall, wherever you are. Good to go? And then they can reply back and say, yep, all good, or simply repeat it, but this time as a statement, not as a question. Good to go. So falling intonation marks a statement and a rising intonation marks a question. Good to go? Good to go.
You're good to go.
Now also you can use this before starting something like a presentation or a meeting. Maybe you let the room know, my slides are ready. Good to go. Are you good to go? Are we good to go? It's an alternative to ask, can I start my presentation? Because maybe someone will say, oh no, we're just waiting for John, or oh, just give me 5 minutes, or something like that. So it's a way to get confirmation. Good to go? It's very common both in business and in your personal life to ask someone, what's left? What's left? What is left? What's left? And this is used to ask what remains to be done. So after completing part of a task, you might say, we sorted the invoices. What's left? What's left? This is like asking, what else do we need to do to complete this? This being the larger task when you complete one part.
You know, what's left?
Or maybe when you're preparing for a trip at home, you can say, I cleaned out the fridge and watered all the plants. What's left? What's left? What else do we need to do before the trip? Now, as a reply, hopefully, your partner says, nothing's left. We're good to go. We're good to go. Or you might ask someone, what changed? What changed? This is used to ask what is different from before. So you can use this when noticing a difference. So maybe a difference in appearance. You might say, your office looks different. What changed? Because you know something is different, but you can't identify it.
What changed?
And then they say, it was repainted last week. What changed about your office? What changed? Or it's like asking what's different about your office. So it means changed or different. Or maybe you can say, I thought the budget meeting was on Tuesday. What changed? And you can use this if you now see in your calendar that the budget meeting is on Wednesday. And then your coworker could say, oh, Barb's away that day, so we had to push it to Wednesday. It's like asking, why isn't the meeting on Tuesday anymore? So you could be looking for the specific reason. Here's one I use a lot. You there? You there? This is to check if someone is present or paying attention. I commonly use this in a chat form, usually with customer service, but you can use this with anyone in a chat form. So you can say, you there? And you might add on still. You still there? So you would use this after you send a message and there's been quite a long time and you haven't received a reply. You there? You still there? And then hopefully you get a reply back that says, yep, still here. I'm just reading through the issue.
You there, Helen?
So it's an alternative to asking, are you still there? Is just the short form by dropping the auxiliary verb. Now this is commonly used on the phone. So you're on the phone. Hello, Bob? Bob? You there? You there, Bob? Bob? And then you are wondering if Bob is still on the call. So are you still on the call, Bob? And he's not replying, so no, Bob isn't there. Here's one I commonly ask, more so in a social situation, but you can use this in a business situation. Where from? Where from? This is to ask the origin of something. So here's how I generally use it. My friend might say, I finally found the perfect dress for my cousin's wedding. And I would reply back and say, oh, that's great. Where from? Where from?
Where from?
Where is the dress from? Where did you buy or where did you find the dress? That's what I'm asking. Where from? Or maybe your manager says, we're running low on toner. Can you order 3 more cases? And you reply back and say, sure. Where from? Where from? Where should I order the toner from? Of course, this implies that there are multiple places that you usually order toner. How about why now? Why now? This is to ask the reason for doing something at a specific time. So maybe you say to your manager, I can order 3 cases of toner, but why now? Why now?
Why now?
It's like asking, why do you want me to order the toner now? But it implies instead of a better time. So if you ask why now, you're implying why not tomorrow because it goes on sale, or why not after the holidays when we're less busy, or something like that. You can use this in a social, everyday context. Maybe your friend tells you that she's going on vacation, and you say, wow, I'm glad you're finally going on vacation, but why now? So if you say that, it's like asking, why are you going on vacation now? Again, instead of a better time. So maybe your friend just got a promotion, or just bought a new house, or the holidays are next week. So it seems like an odd time to go on vacation. So just keep that in mind. It's implied, why not a better or different time? Natives commonly ask, how long? How long? To ask about the duration of something.
How long you been here in Africa, huh?
So if your friend says, I found a direct flight from Toronto to Brazil, you might ask, how long? So this is just the short form of how long is the flight, because that's obvious, so you can just use the short form, how long. Or maybe you tell your supervisor, I'll be out of the office today for a doctor's appointment, and they reply back and ask, how long? How long will you be out of the office? And you can reply back and say, not long. How long? Not long. I should be back by 2, or I should be back in 2 hours. So you can use by and then an end time, or in and a duration amount of time. You may be familiar with already asking, how much? How much? This is to ask for the specific uncountable quantity. So just make sure you only use this with uncountable.
How much can you tell from a look?
Of course, money is a common one. Oh wow, the hotel was more expensive than I thought. How much? How much was the hotel? Or, hi mom, can I borrow some money until Friday when I get paid? How much? Or, how much money do you need or want to borrow? Now just remember, you can use this with any uncountable noun. For example, oh wow, it rained a lot last night. Now a lot doesn't have a specific quantity. So if you want more specific details, you can ask how much? How much did it rain? And then you want a specific amount. Compare this to how many? How many? This is to ask for the specific countable quantity. So just make sure you use those two correctly. So maybe in the morning you say, Mom, can you make me some eggs for breakfast? How nice would that be? And then your mom says, how many? Or how many eggs would you like, sweetie? Because your mom makes you breakfast.
How many eggs would you want?
Or maybe you tell your coworker, oh wow, a lot of people registered for the webinar. But a lot, how many is that? So you have to ask, how many? How many people registered for the webinar? Remember, how much? Uncountable. How many? Countable. What if you ask, how bad? How bad? This is to ask about severity. This is commonly used when someone reports a problem. The hail last night damaged the roof. How bad? How bad is the hail damage? Or how severe is the hail damage?
How bad can this get?
Or maybe you say to your friend, I hurt my ankle hiking this weekend. How bad? How bad is your ankle injury? How severe is your ankle injury? Let's compare this to how good? How good? This is to ask about quality or effectiveness. So maybe your coworker says the client provided the contract and the terms look good. Because natives commonly use vague language like looks good, a lot. Well, we need more specifics. So you can ask how good, how favorable, positive are the terms. You want the specific information because what they provided is too vague. Or again, how soon if someone is being too vague. This is to ask about timing.
How soon can you sell that bike?
So when you're scheduling something, maybe someone says, we need to get these changes to the client soon. Well, again, this is a very vague word. Everyone has a different interpretation of soon. So you need to ask, How soon? How soon? When specifically do you need the changes? That would be the very direct, long form question, but you can just shorten that to how soon. Or maybe you announce to your supervisor that the toner will be delivered soon. But again, that's vague. And your supervisor asks, how soon? And then you provide more specifics and say, it should be here this afternoon. Again, still relatively vague, but more specific than soon. Here's a short question you can use every day. What's new? What's new? This is to ask about updates or changes in someone's life. So we commonly use this as a greeting. Wow, I haven't seen you since Anna's party. What's new? It's very vague. They can give you whatever information they want. What's new? But you can also use this at work, not necessarily as a greeting. So maybe you say, I just got back from a conference. What's new?
So, what's new in the world of physics?
So you're not asking them, well, have you started any new hobbies? You really want to know about work activities. So you might be more specific and say, what's new with the marketing team? Have you hired anyone, fired anyone, completed any projects? What's new with the Emerson project? Did we get the contract? Did we start it? So you can be more specific and say what's new with and then something specific. Another short question used as a greeting is, how's life? This is to ask about someone's overall well-being. So as a casual greeting, you might say, wow, I haven't seen you since we graduated. How's life? So we commonly use this when you haven't seen someone for a long time and you have no idea what their life is like. What are they doing for work? What is their relationship status? What are their interests? So in that sense, you can use this greeting.
How's life?
You can also use this when you're checking on a friend. So maybe there's been some life event, so you want to know how they're doing. So you might say, I haven't seen you lately. How's life? Or perhaps you must be so busy as a new mom. How's life? How's life as a new mom? How's life since this important event happened? Another one you will use regularly, you free, you free. This is to ask if someone has time to do something.
Are you free for dinner tomorrow?
So you can use this when planning to meet. In a social context, you might tell your friend, we're seeing a movie on Friday. You free? This is like asking, are you free to see a movie on Friday? Or are you free to join us on Friday? You free? Or you can use this when asking for help. You might say, I need someone to review this Excel to make sure it's accurate. You free? Are you free? Are you available to review this Excel? Or it would be an alternative to the more standard, do you have time to review this Excel? You free? You free? You can also use the opposite, you busy, you busy. This is to check someone's availability. So before asking for help, you might say, hey Jack, you busy? You busy?
You busy right now?
Are you busy? And then it just drops that auxiliary verb. Hey Jack, you busy? And then he says, nope. What's up, which is a casual way of asking, what do you need? Nope, what do you need? So in this context, what's up isn't a greeting, it's used to ask, what do you need? You can also use got a minute. Got a minute? This is to ask for someone's time briefly. So a minute represents a short amount of time. Using got is a more casual way of asking, do you have a minute? Native speakers also use got a sec instead of minute, and sec is short for second. Got a sec, got a second, got a minute. Those three are very common. You can use this before asking a quick question just to make sure you're not interrupting. Hey Jack, got a minute? And then once you get confirmation from Jack, you ask the question or ask for help, whatever you wanted to do.
Yo, pal, you got a minute?
You can also use this to get someone's attention. So I might knock on someone's door, and then once they make eye contact, I would say, Asha, got a minute? Got a minute? That's my way of asking if Asha is available to discuss something or to help me with something. Now maybe she replies though and says, actually, I'm just in the middle of something. Can it wait? Can it wait? You can ask someone, need a hand? Need a hand? This is to ask if someone needs assistance. So you can use this if someone looks like they need assistance. So maybe someone is carrying some heavy boxes and you say, those boxes look heavy. Need a hand? So this is a short form of the standard do you need a hand, and then you're just dropping the auxiliary verb and the subject. Need a hand?
Need a hand?
And the person can reply and say, yes, I'd love one. One, because it's a hand. It's never need hands, it's need a hand. So it's yes, I'd love one. I'd love a hand, thanks. Or maybe they decline your help and they say, I'm good, but thanks. Now you can be specific and say need a hand with something. Need a hand with dinner? That's a nice thing you can offer your mom, your partner, your roommate. Need a hand with dinner? To accept, they can say that'd be great. That would be great. That'd be great, thanks. Or simply yes, and then they can give you the instruction, what you can do to help them. Yes, you can chop up the onion. You can also use this if you have free time. So maybe you say, I finished cleaning out the garage, need a hand. So now you're offering your assistance. How about who's paying? This is an important question. Who's paying? This is to ask who will cover the cost. So maybe someone says, pizza's here, who's paying? And then someone shouts out, it's Marielle's turn. So it's her turn to pay. Or maybe the client wants us to meet in person at their office in Brazil, but your team is in Boston. So Boston to Brazil is a long trip. So you ask, who's paying? Who's covering the cost, the expense of the trip?
Who's paying the bills?
Hopefully you know this short question, which one? Which one? This is to ask someone to choose between options. Maybe you're at a cafe and you say, I'll have a cookie, please. And then they reply back and say, which one? Which cookie would you like? So one represents cookie. Which one?
I'm just here to figure out which one I want.
Or maybe at work someone says, let's go with the candidate from Boston. And then you reply and say, which one? There are 3 from Boston. Which candidate from Boston? This is a must-know short question. Anything else? Anything else? This is to check if more information or items are needed. So if you are at a cafe and you say, I'll have a small cappuccino, please. Sure. Anything else? Do you want anything else?
Can I get you anything else?
And to reply, say, no thanks, no thanks. Or maybe you're preparing your shopping list and you say, for dinner, we need tomato paste, parsley, parm cheese, and bread. Anything else? So you want to get confirmation from your partner to make sure you didn't miss anything. And they say, nope, that's it, or nope, that's all we need. So it's an alternative to, do we need anything else for dinner? The same question, but instead of anything, you can ask anyone else. So to ask if other people are involved or present. So you might give an instruction and say, invite Tomo from marketing and Shaynaz from sales to the meeting. And then the person says, sure. Anyone else? Should I invite anyone else?
Anyone else?
And then you can reply back and say, nope, nobody else, or nope, no one else. So notice that's the negative form. Nobody or no one else. You can use them interchangeably. Think of everything you've learned, the questions and the replies. Do you want me to keep helping you improve your vocabulary? If you do, put let's go, let's go, let's go in the comments, and now you know why you should do that. So hopefully the explanation makes sense to you. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.